Thank you. I was wondering if the sponsor knows what the population of Hamilton County is.
I do. I do not.
Does anyone over there know what the population of Hamilton County is?
I don't believe so.
2012, the population of Hamilton County is 4,778 men, women, and children. Maybe 3,000 of them are registered to vote. So we're going to add to the taxpayers of Hamilton County an unfunded mandate where 15 days before a general election and 8 days before a primary election, 23 extra days, where Hamilton County, with maybe 3,000 voters, is going to pay to staff a minimum of 5 polling locations in the largest and most rural county in New York State. Is that what this bill says?
That's how the bill reads.
So it's a little lighter lift when you spread a one-size-fits-all approach to absentee or extra voting to a county of 1 million people or of 2 million people. But we're talking about a county of 5,000 people that are going to have a mandate to pay for staffing 5 locations to serve 3,000 voters, 23 days. That math doesn't make any sense to me. Does that math make sense to you?
The bill, we have put in a minimum of 5 locations to try to be fair to all folks involved.
Would it be more fair? Would it be more fair to all folks involved to remove the minimum of 5 and to let every county decide for that? You got 5,000 people that you're mandating 5 polling locations. If you start scaling that up, that ratio to New York City would be staggering, wouldn't it?
Well, we are. Right now, this is, I don't know if we have a Senate sponsor, right? So any suggestions you may have, we are willing to listen to, but we believe that 5, a minimum of 5, was the fair way to go throughout the state of New York.
Well, I appreciate your candor. I frankly disagree. I think that as a suggestion, getting away from 5 and leaving it up to the counties, or again, maybe staggering, prorating it, saying counties of this size need to have 5, counties of less than this size need to, but adding 23 days times 5 polling stations. Now, in the counties I represent, most of these polling stations are not government offices. Occasionally they vote in the county building somewhere. Occasionally they vote in a town hall, but a lot of them are voting in fire halls. A lot of them are voting in school gymnasiums. Are we going to tie up a school gymnasium for 23 days during the calendar year?
No, we don't see it that way. Again, we're leaving it up to the counties to provide what the best locations are, and we'd leave it up to their expertise as to whether do it in a gymnasium or not. But we're not talking about the number of machines you would get on election day. We're talking about probably a minimal amount of machines to vote, so it wouldn't take up the space that it would take up. Part of us doing this is also to alleviate the lines and the overcrowding that a lot of polling places do get on election day on bigger elections.
One final question. You're familiar, a previous speaker asked if you were familiar with the absentee rules, and of course I think just about every member probably is. I mean, certainly I can't recall exactly, I think it's 10 days prior to an election right now, you can walk into the Board of Elections office, and if you have a valid reason, as defined by current law, you can vote absentee in person. If you know you're going to be out of town, if you know you're going to be getting a treatment, if you know that you're ill or likely to not be able to vote, if you have a legitimate reason, you can vote absentee not only through the mail, but in person at the Board of Elections.
Well,
10 days before.
Our reading of the absentee ballots is that you have to be permanently disabled, you have to be out of the state. There are strict requirements as to voting absentee.
I agree.
It's not as simple as just voting absentee or choosing to vote at a polling site.
But yet this is a process, a procedure that's established in place. No one's complaining about the cost. My Board of Elections commissioners, and I represent parts of all of 4 counties, so I'm dealing with a lot of election commissioners. None of them are complaining about that. In fact, when we talk about this and imposing the cost of 23 extra staff days to a Board of Elections budget, they all tell me that they greatly prefer one simple thing: loosening the absentee rules, making it easier. Say, hey, for those 10 days before, you don't have to have the tight reason to say, because you know what a lot of people do? A lot of people go in and they fib. They say, well, I'm going to be out of town. They're not sure, but it works for them. No one presses them, and they vote and everyone's happy and it doesn't cost the taxpayer any money, why wouldn't we look at an option like this as opposed to imposing, again, on a little county like Hamilton County or a lot of North Country counties? You're talking about a major expense that you're putting on the taxpayers. They're already screaming about the existing unfunded mandates, and now we want to add more unfunded mandates.
Well, with the absentee, if we loosen the absentee requirements, that's constitutional. We would have to do it through the Constitution. And that is one reason why we don't do that. The other issue with the absentee ballots, too, is we do talk about fraud, too. You know, there are issues, as has been brought up, that there might be issues with this bill with fraud. There's issues with opening up or loosening the requirements for absentees for more fraud also.
All right, thank the speaker.
Thank you.
Thank the sponsor. On the bill, please.
On the bill, Mr. Stec.
Well, I think everyone here is for democracy. We're for access for voters. We're for making it as easy as possible to vote. I think a lot of my constituents feel that 6 in the morning to 9 at night on the first Tuesday of the month every November, it's pretty easy to plan around for most people. For the handful of people that can't, there are other options available. And most taxpayers that I've talked to aren't looking forward to paying 5 polling stations, 23 days, tying up fire halls and school gymnasiums on this scheme. I think there's other alternatives. At a bare minimum, we need to get off the five polling location requirement. That might work in a big urban county. It is a bad idea for a more rural county. And again, I emphasize this is an unfunded mandate that is coming at a time where people have had enough unfunded mandates, at least where I come from. And I thank the Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Stec.